Hi there, I'm Josh, and today we're going to be making a beat on the Roland SP-404 Mark II. Now, I'm not affiliated with Roland in any way. I'm not like sponsored to make this content or anything. I just thought it might be fun to do a little beat making session with this, both as an exercise for me and hopefully as a resource to anyone who just got one of these and is maybe a little unsure of how to work it, if that doesn't sound too conceited to suggest. So why don't we start, here we are on a blank project, why don't we start by sampling something into it? So over here to the side, I've got my phone, and it has a song by Lonnie Liston Smith called The Garden of Peace. So I'm going to hit record, and you can see I've got external source here lit up. If it was not, I would, have to turn it on. I'll hit record. I'm going to tap the pad where I'd like to record, and it's in standby mode. I'll start recording, and I'll start the audio. And that's enough. Hopefully I didn't trigger YouTube's content ID thing. But anyway, so we've got this sample. And why don't we play around with it? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to just make a couple copies of this sample. This might not be the fastest way to work with it, but it helps me. There's 3 sections of it that I want to chop out. That starting note, and then that first falling arpeggio, and then the second falling arpeggio that comes in at a higher pitch. So why don't we just start with the one on pad 1, and I'm going to hit start end, and you can see we've got this waveform here on the screen. This is new for the SP-404 line. Before this, they had these alarm clock style screens, and a lot of it was really just happening in your ear, which is in one way is like a kind of zen way to work, but it is nice, I've got the visual feedback. It also, I've got ADHD, so having something with a lot of bright, shiny lights and detail to look at, I find it very welcoming. So I think that that should be good. All right. So now I'll hit exit. And I'm going to go to this one, and kind of the same thing. Now, I should have explained what I was doing here. So these knobs, these are some is aftermarket the right word? They're made by a company called DJ Tech Tools. They're called chroma caps. You can just pop these right off and change them. But this white knob here is going to control the sample start point, and this black knob here is going to control the sample endpoint. And then the fun purple knob here currently isn't doing anything, and the yellow knob is controlling the volume of the SP-404, not the volume of the sample. So now let's try to find, I think that spike in the volume is where we want. I can zoom in by turning this little encoder over here. Boop, boop, boop. I think that we are about where I'd like us to be. All right, perfect. And the last thing that we'll do is chop this one to that higher arpeggio. I've kind of given away how I plan to put these together. Another fun thing that's been added to the SP-404 Mark II that was present, I think, on the SP-202, I can't speak too much to that unit as I've never really used one, is pitch shifting. So for each sample, if I hit pitch and speed, you can see it's got speed here and then pitch. And I can either turn this purple knob to change the pitch, or I could turn the white knob to change the speed. And whichever one you're changing, the other one will just change accordingly. In this case, I'm going to just pitch everything down one step. Now, maybe this is just me, but I find that when you pitch something down not very far, it gets a kind of uncanny sound. Especially with acoustic instruments. Something that I think a lot of people don't realize, even if you're kind of just starting out in music, or if you just, listen to a lot of music, is that the timbre of notes and how it relates to their pitches is that knowledge is kind of in your head, even if you're not always fully cognizant of it. And so when you take a sample from that's just this piano right here and pitch it down, your brain is like, whoa, what am I hearing? Because you've got a different timbre, but assigned to a pitch that you think should sound differently. I hope that made sense. It was a little bit of a rambling. So now we've got these. Awesome. Something else we could do here, if we wanted to, is we could add them to a mute group. So if I hit Shift here and then pad 8, I can assign these to a mute group. And what that's going to do is, normally if I were holding down, say, pad 1 and I hit pad 2, they would just play together. But now they'll cut each other off. And you can kind of see that the light here dims when I hit pad 2 to show that pad 1 is no longer playing. So why don't we add some drum samples to our project now? I've got an SD card here, which just has every single sample that was in my backups for my my sampler that I've had before, the Synthstrom Deluge. So I'll hit Shift and 14, and we get this menu, and I'll click this in, import from SD card, import a sample. I'm going to scroll down. There's this sample pack, Dusty Lo-Fi. I think it was like a free sample pack on Lander, but wherever it was that I got it, it's got a bunch of different samples. And as you scroll through, you can preview them by hitting this subpad button. There's a nice snare, but right now I just want to find a kick. I really like that one. All right, so I'm going to tap the pad that I want to assign it to. That's pad 13. And I will click this in. Operation completed. Nice. It makes me think of like a secret agent when it says something like that. All right, now to find a good snare. That'll do. All right. And once more, enter. And the last thing that I will do is, I think up at the top, there's this hi-hat, which I will map to here. All right. And all the drums are set up, and I'll exit. And we've got our drums. Something I always make sure to do is turn off gate on these, because I like to think that, it is samples, but I like to treat it as like an acoustic instrument where the sound doesn't just vanish when you pull your drumstick away from the drum head. And the SP-404 Mark II does have velocity sensitivity. I can turn it off, or turn the fixed velocity off, which turns on velocity sensitivity. Which is pretty cool. I haven't really dug into like using that too much, but I might over time. So anyway, now we've got that. And why don't we try putting that into like one pad by resampling it? So we'll do a little performance of that and record it. I'm going to say to pad 5. Now, before we do, I wanted to show some of the multi-effects that are on here because I think they sound really great. The previous SP-404 model, the SP-404 SX, I guess there was also the SP-404A. As far as I know, they were pretty similar. But the SP-404 SX I use really often as just an external effects unit, in part because of the vinyl sim. This one also has the 303's vinyl sim. Let's turn up the noise a little bit. Which is cool. The effect on here that I have been, I'm going to say most enamored with, though, is the cassette sim. I love the sound of cassette tapes. Maybe it's partly because I have memories of listening to them. But however it is, you have these knobs and you can control the age, hiss, and tone. I kind of wish that would stay on the screen a little bit longer. And something that I find is cool about the UI of the 404 is that since things are always assigned, in sets of 3, you can always tell what you're changing. So I'll turn the hiss down a little bit and the tone. And just get some nice harshness on there. So why don't we turn that back on? I don't really know why I turned it off. Hit resample, and we're going to resample that little sequence on the pads. So I'll tap the pad we're going to record to, bam. It says press pad to start, so it's going to wait for me to start playing something, and then we'll start recording. All right, and I hit record there, so now, hopefully, awesome. So now we've got a loop, and I turned on looping and I turned off the gate. So if gate is on, when I let go, it stops. But I want that to keep going so that I can then try playing something on the drums. So I'll turn on or turn off gate and start it. All right, so why don't we now try resampling again, but with the drums. While I don't script these videos out, I do try to plan things out in advance, and this is the one part that I have not practiced a huge amount, so hopefully it won't go too poorly. But we'll resample onto pad 6, and like before it says press pad to start, so... Well, I messed up. All right, so now we've got it with the drums. And so now what we can do with that is just start playing around. Now, you might have noticed this bus effects button, that if I hit it, it goes between bus 1 and bus 2. Right now they're in bypass mode because I haven't turned on an effect on either. But the way those work is let's say I go to bus 1 and I can set an effect. We could use this lo-fi effect. And then I could go to bus 2 and turn on the isolator. Which might not be the combo I would really want to go with, but that's just something that you can do as you're playing around. So why don't we try, I'll turn on the isolator, and what I like to do with the isolator, and I definitely don't mean to make it sound like I'm the only person who does this or the only person who's thought of it, but what I like to do is set everything to 0. When the knobs are not at the 0 position, if you start turning them, the value will jump to whatever position the knob is at. And I like using the isolator and getting like a smooth pull on those frequencies. So if I set it to 0, then it won't jump. And then I'll go to the next bus and I'll just set up the effect that I would want, the warm saturator. That gets it really dirty. All right. So why don't we try playing around with that? And I'm going to start it, and we'll just kind of jam out on that. Before we do, I want to thank you so much for watching. Of course, it's the whole spiel. If you enjoyed the video and you're open to it and you haven't already, please consider leaving a like, hitting subscribe. If you have any questions about the SP-404 Mark II, I do want to do like a kind of a larger question and answer video, but I will also try to get to those questions in the comments as well as I can. And yeah, so we'll just go out playing off of that beat. And once more, thanks so much for coming by. And I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. All right, music time.